Our topic for today is solving problems. Solving problems is our topic for today. If you are not aware, let me also inform you that this is the only broadcast we're going to have in the month of May, because henceforth the broadcast is going to be once every month. The second half of 2025 is extremely busy, very hectic for me. So I won't be able to maintain the weekly broadcast. All right. So we're going to be meeting just once every month on YouTube. So the next broadcast after this will be the first Wednesday in June. All right. It's important. But of course, everything we've done before now is on my YouTube channel. And of course, we have so much materials there. You can always go back to things we've done in the past. Believe you me, they are still very, very potent, and they will add a lot of value to your life. So like I said, our topic for today is solving problems. Of course, if you were part of the broadcast last week, you know that this is very much connected to what we looked at last week. Last week, Wednesday, we examined the 5th chapter of the book, Moving Forward. And of course, that chapter is titled Problems Are Not the Problem. Now, what happened when I was writing the book was that there were some material that I decided not to include in the book. As a matter of fact, what I'm sharing tonight did not even make it to the materials I did not include in the book. This is fresh. See, but those things I did not include in the book were the ideas that inspired this session. But by the time I was putting this together, I still did not get to put them. See, because there's just a lot to cover. And I like to always be very concise so that people can follow the train of thought. People can cover the videos in a very short time. But this is what I'm going to do tonight. I'm going to give you a very brief summary, not of the whole book moving forward, but the part of the book that leads us to where we are tonight. Now, I said in the book in chapter 1 that wherever there is life, there is growth. And wherever there is growth, there will be challenges so that growth may multiply. When you respond to challenges or to problems with intelligent strategy, progress is inevitable. And of course, last Wednesday, we focused on problems and not the problems. I told you that challenges are not roadblocks, but stepping stones to the discovery of your true potential. Every challenge you face actually is there to introduce you to yourself. There are things you can do that you are not aware of. There are things that you can execute that you are not aware of, that until the challenge comes or the problem surfaces, that you would find out, look, I can do this. All right, so challenges are not roadblocks, but stepping stones to the discovery of your true potential. And there were 3 major ideas we looked at last week, Wednesday. I said to you that problems will train you to make you fit for your assignment. I told you that problems will test you to reveal to you the true conditions of your heart, or the true condition or the actual condition of your heart. I told you, some of us assume that we are generous until somebody comes to press our button. Some of us think we're tolerant until somebody comes to look for our trouble. Some of us think that we are patient until issues arise that test our patience. So challenges come to test you, to reveal to you the actual condition of your heart. And something very crucial that we discussed last Wednesday is that problems are your invitation to relevance and prosperity. Problems are your invitation to relevance and prosperity. I said to you that the problems you have solved will determine the problems you will be invited to solve. And the problems you solve, the magnitude of the problems you solve, and who you solve them for will determine the amount of money that flows in your direction. So if there's anything you know about successful people, is that they don't run away from problems. They embrace challenges, not because they like the pain, not because they are sadists, but because they have come to realize that on the other side of this challenge is the prosperity I'm looking for. On the other side of this challenge is the relevance that I am looking for. that is what has led us to the topic of tonight: solving problems. This is what we're saying. Now that we know that solving problems is the key to relevance, solving problems is the key to prosperity. Just like David in the battle with Goliath, we are going to run in the direction of what everybody is running away from. We are going to embrace challenges. We are going to embrace problems because we know that on the other side of these problems, of these challenges, is the victory, is the breakthrough that we are looking for. So tonight, what I really want to share with you is what I call 5 indispensable principles for solving problems. 5 indispensable principles for solving problems. Now, let me say this to you. I'm not going to perhaps be quoting a lot of people, not because I did not study after people, see, but over 2 decades of studying people, of applying principles when it comes to problem solving, I have come up with thoughts and ideas that you can easily and quickly assimilate. And I want to give them to you quickly and simply because I want them to be portable. I want them to be memorable. I want you to be able to understand and remember the 5 principles I'm sharing with you tonight. So I'm going to be concise and straight to the point because I want you to remember. What am I saying? I'm not going to be explaining a lot. I'm going to be mentioning these principles to you because I want you to study them. I want you to understand them. I want you to practice them. Tonight is not for information. Tonight is for action. Tonight is for moving forward. Now, as we progress, let me say this to you. There are spiritual solutions and there are practical solutions. Our focus today is on practical solutions, but allow me to say a few words about spiritual solutions. You've got to realize that the spiritual is the mother of the material. All right? Regardless of your religious persuasion, the world we live in is a spiritual world. Essentially, you are a spirit. You are a spiritual being. So the degree to which you understand and you can deploy spiritual solutions, okay, is the degree to which you perhaps will thrive on earth. But like I said, that's not our focus tonight. But for those of us who are people of faith, I will say this to you. If you are going to be a skillful problem solver, you want to start from spiritual solutions. You want to become a man or a woman of prayer. That's not our focus tonight, but I think it is worth mentioning. Make a habit of prayer. And when I say make a habit of prayer, I'm not just talking about taking all your problems to God and dumping your problems to God. I'm talking about that aspect of prayer where you interact with God, where you fellowship with God. By the time you are done, you grow, you evolve, you become a better person. Essentially, you become a stronger person. Okay, that aspect of prayer is what I am talking about. At another time, on another day, perhaps, we will deal with spiritual solutions. But tonight, I want to share with you 5 indispensable principles for solving problems. And these are 5 principles I've followed in my life for years, and I can tell you categorically they deliver results. This is the first one. Don't panic. Don't panic. Okay? There is always a way out. I know some of us have heard me say that severally. There is always a way out. There is always a way forward. So let me say it to you this way. Problems and solutions are like the 2 sides of a coin. You can't have one without the other. Or if we want to use Bible language, we would say that every enemy is proof that there is a table. You remember when David said, "You have prepared a table before me in the presence of my enemies." If there is no solution, then there is no problem. So the moment there is a challenge, don't panic. Tell yourself the truth. Every challenge, every problem has a solution. It may not be on the surface. I may have to work hard to deliver it, but there is a solution to this challenge. You know, so many years ago, I learned this principle and I started practicing it so much that when something challenging or something negative happens, I make it a point of duty to utter positive conclusions, even when I don't know the solution. I'll tell you a story. All right, I've said this story before severally. I was driving my first car somewhere in Yaba, and there was a traffic stop, and then when the light turned green, everybody started moving, so I accelerated also, and then I heard a loud sound. Okay, then the rear of my car hit the road, and then I looked in the rear view mirror and I saw my rear tire, okay, the left rear tire, rolling away from the car. Of course, I stopped right there in the middle of the road, and the tire rolled to the other side of the road, and right there was a military man in military uniform, and he saw my tire, and then he stood on the tire. If you know anything about way back Nigeria, way back Lagos in those days, I'm talking some 15, 17 years ago. Okay, roughly about 15 to 17 years ago. So the military guys, were tough guys. They would sometimes harass people, take advantage of people. So this guy stood on my tire. I came down from the car, stood on the road, and the first thing I said to myself, were these words: I am not sleeping here tonight. I'm going to sleep at home tonight. And what did I do at that moment in time? I pre-played the future. I don't know how it's going to come about, but I'm going to get home. I'm going to sleep at home tonight. Of course, the military man grabbed my tire, rolled it over to me, and guess what he said? He said, I'm a mechanic with the military base there. I can help you fix it. I said, okay, wait. I don't have money. Way back in those days, let's just say I was struggling. I had just about 3,500 naira on me. So I said, how much am I going to pay you to fix this? So it wasn't just that the nut came off, the brake hub, things came off that I didn't even couldn't explain at that time. I said, I said, how much do you have? I said, and I mean, naive young man. I said, I have 3,005, but I can't give you everything. I will give you maybe 2,000 and hold on to 1,500. I'm still going home and all of that. And guess what he said? He said, okay. He fixed it, and then he said something to me. He said, what I've done is a temporary fix. You must take this car to your mechanic tomorrow. And I said, thank you very much. I got into the car and I moved on. Okay, about some 10 minutes later, another friend of mine was on the same road, overtaking me and waving at me. And I said to myself, it will not even cross his mind what I had gone through just before this moment. But by the time he saw me, I was driving, he waved at me, we smiled at each other. And you see, that's what life is all about. No matter what it is that you are dealing with right now, trust me, there is a way out, there is a way forward. 2 years down the line, somebody who did not know what you have been through will look at you, you will tell them their story, and they will tell you, come off it. No, you didn't go through that. You know the reason why? Because there is always a way out, there is always a way forward. So I say this to people: the first law of crisis is do nothing. Okay? Now, when I say do nothing, it's not because you are irresponsible. It is actually because the first thing to do is to rest. And that's why I said to you, don't panic. You've got to learn to live from a place of rest. How do you do that? You pre-play the end, then come back to the beginning and work your way to the end. Okay? At the end, you are going to win. At the end, you succeed. At the end, okay, you break through. At the end, you achieve your objectives. You scale every challenge, you overcome every hurdle. So now we come back to the present, and because of that vision of the end, we know how to profile solutions, and then we move all the way to the end. That's the first principle. Don't panic. The second principle is this: think, respond with thoughts, not feelings. Okay? Think, respond with thoughts, not feelings. Take this from me. We solve problems with thoughts and implement solutions with feelings. This is the principle. We solve problems with thoughts and implement solutions with feelings. Let me give an example. Let's say there is a struggling business. Okay, they have employees, but the turnover, the profit the company is making is below expectation. They are struggling to pay salaries, meet all the other obligations, and they have had, a strategy session. And the conclusion, the logical thing to do is perhaps to let some people go. That decision, that decision was arrived at by thoughts. but it must be implemented with emotional intelligence. So they've got to look for the right time, the right way to communicate this decision to the people that have to be released. But that decision is not made sentimentally. Now, watch this. Some make the mistake of solving problems with feelings and then implementing with logic. It doesn't work that way. You solve the problem with thoughts, you implement with feelings. In other words, sometimes the way forward is a difficult way, but you have to learn to have human face. So, when there is a challenge, make sure that you are responding with thoughts, not feelings. In other words, regardless of the way you feel, you engage your mind and suppress your emotions. All right. Many of us are Nigerians. If you're driving on the road and somebody hits you from behind, you are angry, you want to get down, you want to give the person a piece of your mind, and then you glance in your rearview mirror and you notice that it's the convoy of perhaps a government official with military men inside. Yes, you are still angry, but you will control yourself. So you see, what I found out is when there is a greater danger, we don't struggle with responding with thoughts instead of feelings. Okay, so this is something you can do. Are you getting it? Let me give another example. If it's 7 p.m. and then you hear a loud banging on your door, I mean the person is banging loudly, your immediate reaction is anger. Okay, who is this person making noise? Who is this person disturbing me? And then you hear a gunshot. So now you know the person at the door has a gun. My brother, you will respond with thoughts. You will notice that anger flies away. I'm saying this to let you understand what I'm sharing with you is something that we all know how to do, to suppress feelings and engage thoughts. The question then is, why do we find people in street fights? Why do we find people saying the wrong things to their colleagues at work? Okay, being disrespectful to their superiors at work, okay, or even manhandling or abusing emotionally their employees. It is because when we think that the consequences are not high, we respond with feelings instead of responding with thoughts. But take it from me today, if you want to be a professional, a skillful problem solver, you've got to respond with thoughts, not with feelings. That's principle number 2. Let's move to principle number 3. Principle number 3 is a question, and this is it. What's in your bag? Principle number 3 is a question. What is in your bag? Okay? What's in your bag? Sorry, there's a little bit of a glitch I need to deal with. Sorry for the break. All right. So like I said, principle number 3 is a question. What's in your bag? It was King Solomon who said that there is nothing new under the sun. And it's true. There is nothing new under the sun. What does that mean? It means that what is happening right now has happened before. Okay? What is happening right now has happened before. A problem like this has been solved before. You were either part of the solution or you learned about it. All right? A problem like this has happened before and you were part of the solution or you learned about it. This is what I'm saying. Experience is simply a bag of solutions to future problems. So the question is, what's in your bag? Anytime you see a challenge, don't forget you are responding with thoughts and not feelings. The first question is, has this happened before? Have I experienced this before? Have I heard about somebody who went through this before? Just you reach into your bag of experience and you bring out a solution. As a matter of fact, when people begin to depend on you to solve problems, maybe you lead organizations or you serve somebody, a high capacity person who depends on you to provide solution, this is your go-to. You don't want to reinvent the wheel. If somebody else has gone through it and they have preferred solutions, you've got to learn. And see, that's the reason why At every moment in time, you've got to be present. A lot of times, the reason why people suffer is because when the problem happened before, they did not pay attention. And it's going to happen again. Don't forget, there's nothing new under the sun. If you have a medical challenge, you are not the first person who's going to have that medical challenge. If you have an issue in your relationship, you are not the first person who is going to have that issue. As a matter of fact, if you learn to leverage other people's experiences, your bag will be full of solutions that you did not pay for. And I can tell you for a fact, it is better to learn from other people's experiences than for you to pay the price yourself. So, the question again, what's in your bag? If this has happened before, how was it resolved? For most of us who are parents, you understand what I'm saying? The first child is the guinea pig. The moment you get to your second child, you have a bag of solutions. Some of the things that took you to the ER with the first child is not going to take you to the ER now. Now you are experienced. By the time you have your second child, for some people, your third child, okay, you become a consultant, you become a mentor because you have been through. But this is what I found out. For many of us who did not struggle with parenting, it is because by the time we had even our first child, our bags were full already because we were present and we paid attention, okay, to other people's experiences and we learned from them. I mean, for example, by the time we got married, myself and my wife, she had already helped to take care of two of our, nephews and nieces. So she had some experience. They left babies with her. She took care of them. By the time she had her own baby, there were things she didn't have to go through again. It is because experience is simply a bag of solutions to future problems. So, what's in your bag? Don't waste your pain. Don't waste your exposure. When somebody else is going through stuff, pay attention because that experience will be useful to you in the future. And as you solve problems, it is also important that you apply your mind and you pay attention because a similar problem will happen again. Let me give you an example. If you hire somebody to work with you, maybe 2 months, 3 months down the line, you find out that you made a mistake in hiring that person, it's not a waste. If you will glean experience, glean principles from that experience, okay, the next time another person shows up to be hired, you can just by having just a simple conversation, no, we can't hire this person. Why? Because you can see the clues, you can hear sounds, you can see body language, okay, similarity in stories, patterns. And so what happened before becomes equipping, okay, for what is going to happen in the future. Let me share an interesting story with you. So when I worked with my boss so many years ago, one man came to us on a Sunday morning. And by the way, I worked for a church and I continue to still work for a church. So then I was working for a church. This guy came and he said that he was a pastor of a church in Ikorodu. He came Sunday morning, waited till the end of the service, and he said he wanted to see my pastor. All right. But then he had to see me first before he saw my pastor. So I sat down with him and interviewed him. And then he said that there was some strong winds a few weeks back and that the wind took off the roof of their church. So he had come to our church that Sunday morning to solicit for assistance so that they can raise money to fix the roof of their church. I was a rookie pastor, maybe less than a year into, full-time ministry. So my heart, very tender. I was moved. A whole church, they don't have roof. So I went to see my pastor. This guy had won me over anyway. Then I went to see my pastor to say, you know what? There's this pastor who came to see you. This is the problem, blah, 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 blah. He didn't even allow me to finish. He said, I beg, I don't have time to see such people. I felt like, why are you callous? Why are you insensitive? Then he noticed my hesitation and I said, come, let me teach you something. He said, no true pastor, no true shepherd will leave his sheep on a Sunday morning to go to another church to beg for money so that they can solve a problem. He said it is not true. They tell those kind of stories, okay, because they know that churches will be soft, will be gentle, we would like to help. And some of these guys are scammers going around. And when he said that to me, I was like, what? But that was my equipping, okay? Because after that particular guy, so many people came like that, Apparently, it was something people were running in those days, go to churches and all of that. So it equipped me. Let me tell you another story. I have another mentor who has a principle. His own principle is any pastor that begs me for money, I don't give him money. And so we asked him why. He said it's very simple. If a pastor resorts to begging to solve his personal problem, what is he going to teach his church members? And I'm saying to you that these are lessons that I learned. Now, these principles are in my bag because I paid attention when other people were sharing their experiences. I have not had to lose money as a church pastor to learn the lesson that there are scammers who go to churches, okay, to scam them because they want to tell one sub story and get some money out of church. And that's what I'm saying to you. What's in your own bag? Okay, how have you been equipped with experience? Because honestly speaking, a lot of the problems, guess what? It may not even be the same problem, but there is similarity in patterns. And the solution applied in a relational issue can apply in a work situation. If you can, just distill the principles. We're looking at 5 indispensable principles for solving problems, and this is number 4. And number 4, in my opinion, is my favorite. This is number 4. Leverage shared thinking. Leverage shared thinking. The reason is because the solution or the quality of a solution is determined by the quality of minds that produce it. Let me say that again. The quality of a solution is determined by the quality of minds that produce it. And this is what I'm saying. No matter how intelligent you are, you have blind spots. So shared thinking will protect you. I learned about shared thinking from John C. Maxwell in his classic book, Thinking for a Change. That's the original title. It was later changed to How Successful People Think. And this is what I tell people. Until you have read that book, I'm not sure you are serious about personal development. I'm not sure you are serious about success. How Successful People Think by John Maxwell. In that book, he shared about 11 thinking skills of successful people. This is just one of them. Shared thinking. That no matter how intelligent you are, never make a decision without consulting another person. 2 intelligent heads are better than 1. That's what we're saying. The same thing was actually said in the Bible. Proverbs chapter 15 and verse 22. Let's read it together. Proverbs 15 and verse 22. It says, your plans will fall apart right in front of you if you fail to get good advice. But if you first seek out multiple counselors, you will watch your plans succeed. Right? Your plans will fall apart right in front of you if you fail to get good advice. That's the reason why you want to have a number of people that you consult, that you ask questions. And you don't even want to take people for granted. You see, when we say 2 intelligent heads, we are not necessarily saying that, people's stations in life determines their level of intelligence. It's been discovered that most of the time, the best solutions, the best ideas are generated by stakeholders, people on the front line. For example, in a manufacturing company, if you want to improve production, talk to the guys in the warehouse, the guys in the factory, the guys on the production line. The advice they have to share sometimes is more valuable than what a consultant has to share. 2 heads are better than 1. For years now, there is a principle I have practiced. I don't make any decision, I don't execute any idea without discussing it with at least one other human being, in the minimum. Of course, the default person is my wife. And then apart from my wife, I have other people that I will just pick their brains. I will just discuss with, because no matter how intelligent you are, you have blind spots. There are just some things that you will not see. There are perspectives you will not see. When you share your projects, share your thinking with other people, you come up with better solutions. And that was exactly what happened in the case of Mile High Seed Company in Colorado, USA. Jim Anderson was the CEO. They had orders to supply about 75 crates of seed per day, but they could only produce 35. So Jim Anderson brought in consultants, and the consultants recommended that they automate their production, which would cost them about $5,000 at that time. He approached several banks, but no bank was willing to give him a loan because they were a young company. So guess what Jim Anderson did? He called together his employees and discussed the problem with them. And then one of the workers came up with an idea that will cost them just $500 to execute. And they executed the idea. In 3 months, they started delivering 75 crates of seed. By the end of that year, their production went up to 105 crates per day. Not long after that, by executing that $500 idea, they shot up to 145 crates per day. A company that was struggling to produce 35 crates per day, without executing the $5,000 idea, without bringing in any new person, the same workers, okay, and it was one of them that generated the idea that cost just $500. And about 2-3 years later, by executing that idea, they were producing 145 crates per day. That is the value of shared thinking. It's amazing. I mean, I'm a very creative person, but it's amazing how that as a creative person, you have done the work, and then somebody just comes and just makes a little difference. Okay, another example is my latest book, Moving Forward. Okay, I work with people, shared thinking. So I had a concept for the book. I wanted the back of the book to look like a map. All right, and then it has an arrow, okay, for direction. And I sat down with this graphic artist and we did it. Then I shared that concept with one other person, and then she said, what if there's another arrow instead of just one? And what if that other arrow has a different color? So the direction you are going, okay, to move forward, all right, is white. But the direction that you were taking that was moving you backward is a different color. So white is holy, white is pure. But this other one, and she saw, I mean, it was just a suggestion. I wrote the book, everything in the book. But guess what? People still judge books by their covers. And then she didn't just suggest the green color, she suggested a particular shade of green. By the time we put all of those ideas together, it simply took my idea to another level. It's still the same book. I still wrote the book, but because I leveraged the ideas of other people, I was able to make it better. And that's what happens when we practice shared thinking, which leads us to the final principle I'm sharing with you tonight. You have heard me say this before. Your first idea is not always your best idea. Your first idea is not always your best idea. So what am I saying? Be an explorer, not an expert. Consider problem solving a learning process. In other words, don't be emotionally attached to any solution. Be prepared to change your mind, to change your answer as you learn more. You are not an expert, you are an explorer. You see, an explorer is a student. An explorer wants to learn. An expert is busy defending his thesis, his hypothesis, his position on a matter. And the challenge at times is we get emotionally attached to the first thing we come up with, and then we stand and we defend it. Some of us, we know the story of Henry Ford. Of course, it was a revolutionary, he was an inventor, but he got so attached to the Model T that he could not allow anybody to innovate from there. And it was at that point that he began to lose influence, he began to lose relevance because he became emotionally attached to his idea. Don't be like that. Be an explorer, not an expert. It has been said that the enemy of better is good. The enemy of best is better. So the advice is don't consider anything best. The next one is always just better. And after better, there will be 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 better. There will never be a best. We never arrive. The next destination is not the final destination. It is just the next destination. All right? And as we round up tonight, please take this from me. Deploying practical solutions is only a part okay, of the problem solving process, there are other necessary components. That's what my book, The Checklist, is all about. 5 essential elements of achievement. Tonight, I just want to mention 2 of them. After you have decided that this is the solution, there's something called focused execution. You know, sometimes the reason why we struggle or fail is not because we did not deploy the right solution, but sometimes it's because the right solution was not implemented with focus. That's the reason why we fail. And the next principle is the investment of time. The 2 of them are linked together. So you deploy the right solution with focus and you give it enough time for it to produce tangible results. If you plant maize and in 3 days you don't see anything and you go to dig it up, you killed it because you couldn't be patient. If it was yam, you have to wait longer. If it's cocoa, you have to wait longer. If it's the bamboo, you have to wait longer. Okay, the value of what you are going to produce ultimately will determine its gestation period. So it's not enough to come up with the right solution. We have to give the right solution enough time to produce results. It is on that note that we have come to the end of our content for tonight. Thank you very much for being a part of this broadcast. Of course, I've been speaking since and I've not been able to check the comments. So I'm going to do that right away. And if you have a question, please, you can quickly put it in the comments tonight. All right. So good evening, everybody. Okay. Somebody wants to get a link for the retreat. It's in the comments if you just scroll up, but I'm going to share it again. I will share it again in the comments. So if you have not registered for the media retreat, please do so. And for those who missed the announcement at the beginning of the broadcast, all right, so check in the comments now. I've put the link for the retreat there. If you didn't join us early enough, this broadcast used to be weekly, but because of my hectic schedule, it has to now be just once every month. So the next time you are going to see me is the next Wednesday in June. But like I said, there's a lot we've covered that some of us have not even listened to. So I'm going to encourage you to subscribe to my YouTube channel and then go to the past videos. Believe you me, the fact that we did this content, some of them 2 years, some of them 3 years ago, does not mean that they are not relevant to the life that we're living right now. And even if you were part of the process, the secret is in listening over and over again. You heard me talk about shared thinking by John Maxwell tonight. I have been reading and studying that principle now for over 10 years. I have a copy of the book that I don't lend to anybody, and I go back to these books over and over again. It's the same thing for these videos. You've got to learn to go to them over and over again so that you can get the juice out of the teaching. All right, I want to see if there's any question here. Okay, Eunice says, when seeking advice, how can you protect yourself from idea theft? You see, the first thing we need to deal with is a scarcity mindset. The reason why I would be afraid of idea theft is because I feel that if you take this, my idea, then I don't have another one. Okay? And you see, when somebody steals your idea, truth be told, if they did not generate it, they might not be able to implement it. We're talking ideas now. Okay? We're talking ideas now. All right? So you protect your work, but you don't hoard ideas. If it is just an idea, it's just an idea. Be generous with ideas, honestly speaking, but protect your work. What am I saying? When the book Moving Forward was just an idea, I shared it freely with everybody. That's the truth. As a matter of fact, we were on a fasting and prayer program for 5 days when I shared the concept of moving forward for the first time. 2016, it was the first 4 Sundays in January that I shared the principles of the checklist in church, free of charge. See, it's just an idea. This is what I'll tell you. People who don't generate ideas are too lazy to implement them. That's the truth. So don't be afraid that somebody will steal your idea. That's the first thing. Number 2, you don't need to share your idea to consult people. Okay? Learn to use hypotheses. Learn to use case studies, scenarios to ask questions. Let me give an example of what I'm saying. Let's say I want to build a business say I want to start a fintech, and somebody wants to go into partnership with me, and I want to find out whether I should go into partnership or not. I can talk to anybody and ask, what do you think about doing business in partnership with other people? I don't have to go into the details of what I want to do in my business. Okay, so if it's an idea you have really invested in, you don't need to share the idea to ask questions. We just need to be very smart about the way that we go about it. But like I said, if it is just an idea, feel free, okay, to share ideas, because people who don't generate ideas don't also have the discipline to implement them. That's the truth. But then sometimes when you share ideas, you encourage people, you inspire people, you help them solve problems. You will still go ahead and write your book. You will still go ahead and build whatever you want to build. As a matter of fact, you can test the potency of your idea with people. That's the truth. Most of the things that end up in my book are things I've tested on my wife, tested on my staff, tested with friends. When I see how they respond to those thoughts, I know there's something here. Then I do what? Then I build on it. Okay, so it doesn't matter that you share your ideas with people. Believe you me, you lose nothing by sharing. You lose nothing by sharing. All right. I don't think we have any other question. Let me just be sure. Okay. I don't think we have any other question. All right, so thank you very much. Before we go, allow me to invite you to Hill City. Now, watch this. There is a series going on at Hill City. It's phenomenal. It is titled Selfless, Switching from Success to Significance. I want to tell you for a fact, wherever you are in the city of Lagos, you want to make sure that you are at Hill City this weekend. Okay, whether in Ikeja or Lekki, you want to make sure you are at Hill City. Of course, it's Mother's Day Sunday. We're celebrating big at Hill City this Sunday. So for us, it is two for the price of one. We're celebrating the mothers, and yet the message series is going to continue. So all the ladies, please come dressed in white. It's going to be beautiful on Sunday. And for those in the Ikeja location, Dr. Harry Akinola is going to be in the building. For those in the Lekki location, Pastor Denrelioke is going to be bringing the word on Mother's Day. So you don't want to miss it for anything. Don't miss it for anything. And like we've been saying, if you are yet to register for the media retreat, please do so right away. We have limited seats. It's moving forward, a media retreat. And this is what I'm going to be doing. We've been teaching from the book. What we are going to do, we are going to have practical sessions. It's not so much of talk. It's a lot of activities that will help you understand the concept of the book and then execute it right away. So you don't want to miss this retreat on the 5th of July, 10 a.m. to 2 p.m., just 4 hours. Okay? We are not going to be live streaming. You have to be in the room, and we are only taking in 100 participants. So please register. It is a first come, first serve basis. All right, you don't want to miss your opportunity. So please go ahead, register. Check in the comments. There's a link that you can use to register right away. Admission is absolutely free. Okay, admission is absolutely free. All right, so please register. And for our friends and loved ones in Nairobi, Kenya, I can tell you ahead of time, the month of September, I'm going to be live in Nairobi. We're going to be having Purpose Masterclass live in Nairobi. All right, we'll give you more information about that when the time comes. I just said I should let you know that that is coming. All right, so that's where we'll draw the curtains tonight. Thank you for being a part of tonight's session. I will see you next month. Don't miss that for anything. If you are yet to join us on WhatsApp, then please do so. Of course, communication will go on WhatsApp, even though live broadcast will not continue until next month. So please join us on WhatsApp so that you can be a part of my community, Life and Leadership community on WhatsApp, and then the conversation will continue. As a matter of fact, there's a video that I'm going to share first thing tomorrow morning on WhatsApp. So if you are not in the community, you are going to miss out. Okay, there's a video I'm going to share tomorrow morning that will inspire all of us. So I'll see you next month. For many of us, I'll see you on Sunday. For some others, I will see you on the 5th of July. Enjoy the rest of your day and enjoy the rest of your week. And God bless you. Bye-bye.